A lot of noise, Josh.
Now go back to Zoom.
Now, how do I do that, Squash?
Minimize that screen.
How do I do that, Squash?
Go to the top left. Press the yellow button.
There's no yellow button.
Escape probably on it.
There's no yellow button.
Josh, there's no yellow button.
Huh?
No yellow button. Hit escape.
In the top left corner of the screen?
Right.
Just put the mouse there?
Yes.
Josh,
In the
no
corner.
yellow button.
Okay.
No yellow button. Hit escape.
Press escape in the top left corner of the screen.
Right.
Put the mouse there.
Where's that? Yes.
Escape. Escape.
All right. There we go.
Press escape in the top left corner of the screen. Right. Put the mouse there.
All right. There we go. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so we good. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so we good. All right.
All right. You guys may share. All right. Hello, everyone. All right, I see everybody. You guys have your phones turned down. Thank you. All right, I see you. Hello, Tony. Hello, Fred. Thank you for joining me, Crystal. I know I'm hearing it too. Hello, Tony. Hello. I did it. Thank you, sir. Hello, Crystal. Hello, Shanae. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Paulette. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Darlene. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Jessica. Thank you for being with us tonight. Hello, Kendall. So glad to have you. Hello, Ryan. Yes, I see you, Tony Saunders. Thank you for joining us. Oh, we're getting a great audience. Hello, Marcus. So glad to have you with us tonight. I see you, Jessica. Hello, hello. Thank you. I see that. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. If you would be so kind, would you please share? Hello, Cynthia. So glad to have you with me tonight. Awesome. We give people a chance. Hello, Renee. Thank you for being with me tonight. Fantastic. Hello, Alicia. So glad to have you. Awesome. That means Texas is with us tonight. I see Virginia is with us tonight. North Carolina is with us tonight. Awesome. Go ahead, put where you're from. I see the Barkmans, the Bradburns. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Yes, excited. We will give you guys a chance to share. Thank you for that, for being a sharer. Sharing is a seed. So that, I appreciate it. Hello, Destiny. Thank you for being with me tonight. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. He said, I already shared it. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Yes, I see Norfolk, Virginia is in the house. Dallas, Texas is in the house. Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much, Kendall. I'm looking forward to see what you create tonight off of this. Michigan, hello. Thank you, Ann, for being with us tonight. Awesome. Hello, Nicole. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to get this rolling. Thank you, Felicia. So glad. Continue to share. Continue to share. Let people know. It's going to be a great conversation. Hello, Denise. You came to see your brother. Thank you for being with us tonight. Awesome. 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 Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you all so much for being with us. Hello, Yvonne. Tampa's in the house. Thank you for being with us tonight. So excited to have everybody. Tonight, this conversation is in honor of Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, Jonathan Ferrell, Renisha McBride, Stephen Clark, Jordan Edwards, Jordan Davis, Alton Sterling, Ayanna Jones, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, the Charleston Nine, Tywanza Sanders, Susie Jackson, Cynthia Marie Graham Hurd, Ethel Lee Lance, DePayne Middleton Doctor, Danielle Simons, Sharonda Coleman Singleton, Myra Thompson, Clementa C. Pinkney, Trayvon Martin, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Sandra Bland, Philando Castillo, Corey Jones, John Crawford III, Terrence Crutcher, Keith Scott, Clifford Glover, Claude Reese Jr., Randy Evans, Yvonne Smallwood, Amadou Diallo, Walter Scott, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, Elijah McClain, Robert Fuller, Malcolm Harsh, and James Skurlock. And man, I was happy to say, I said to my husband, every week that I've done one of these conversations, I've had to add a name, but this week I didn't have to add any name, and I was grateful to the Lord. Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. I see you, Margarita. I see you, Martha. I see you, Tim Peterson. Thank you so much for being with us. Continue to share and let's get this going. Hello, everyone. My name is Donna Porter, and I want to thank you for joining me for a conversation with interracial couples. I read an article that said, when we are open with each other, we can broaden each other's perspectives, we can approach the world in a different way, and even find that there is connection in our differences. Tonight, I don't want you to be colorblind. Tonight, I am encouraging you to see color. Let's see it, let's learn about it, let's love it. In 1958, Richard Loving, a white man, and his wife Mildred, a Black woman, were arrested for the crime of being married. Although the couple had been legally wed in the District of Columbia, they became outlaws when they moved to Virginia, where interracial marriages were then illegal. This incident eventually led the 1967 landmark case of Loving versus Virginia, in which the US Supreme Court struck down laws banning interracial marriages. A century after the end of the Civil War, more than a dozen states still had laws on the books banning interracial marriage. June 12th, 1967, Supreme Court ruling dealt a major blow to miscegenation laws that were rooted in racism and violated the Constitution. It took until November the 3rd, the year 2000, for the final state of Alabama to strike down its ban on interracial marriage. I was blown away. This was only 20 years ago. I will say that about 3 times like I'm preaching. This was only 20 years ago that this was finally banned in every state. I think this is important for us to understand and to know this as we have this conversation. And unfortunately, interracial couples can still experience difficulties at times by virtue of the fact that racism still exists in our society on a very deep level. And because it still exists, I'm having a conversation with interracial couples. I want to introduce our guest tonight. I'm going to ask, Richard and Crystal McCorkle to introduce yourselves. Be sure to let us know how long you've been married and also if you have children.
Okay, well, I'm Richard.
You're
And this is
muted.
Yep. Can
You
you hear me?
guys are muted. Listen, they're muted for me. Listen.
Hello?
We can hear you okay?
Okay, hold up.
Okay.
How come I'm not hearing them?
Check, 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 check.
Did you turn down your speaker when it was doing,
Let me hear everybody for a minute.
Hey there.
Hey.
Hello?
Wow.
Hello?
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 Hello, hello, hello.
We can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
What's going on?
Hello?
I think she was, when she turned down the speaker to keep the echo down.
I'm not hearing anybody.
Let me
Okay.
type it
A
in.
second.
Well, I heard Barbara when she just talked, so I can hear her.
And nobody's on mute. And I heard all of you when we started. Somebody's trying to help me. Yes, sir.
What you got?
Everybody's muted some kind of way.
Did you cut the volume?
Yeah, I think
What
she's
you got?
right.
Hold up. I did.
Yeah, turn your volume down.
Okay, try again.
You hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes. Thank you, Boo. And thank you for whoever that was that called. Okay, try again. All right, let's do this. I got you. All right, Richard and Crystal, go ahead. Introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Richard, and this is my lovely wife, Crystal. We've been married since November of 2014. What else do you want to know? This is my lovely wife, Crystal. We've been married since November of 2014. And we also have children, but not together.
Okay. All right, David and Nicole
And
Hopkins.
we also have children, but not together.
I'm not sure where this echo is coming from. All right, David and Nicole Hopkins. Man, I'm telling y'all, this conversation must gonna be something. I have never had any of these issues.
Is it on somebody's phone? Does somebody have their phone line?
That's what I'm asking. Is somebody's phone on?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely on your end.
Somebody's phone? Does somebody have their phone line?
That's what I'm asking. Is somebody's phone on? Billy?
Yeah, it's definitely on your end.
It's on my end some kind of way.
It's an echo.
Yeah.
It's Safari.
Yeah, it's open somewhere.
Okay, so you need to hit more. Hit more.
Yeah.
Hit more.
Okay, here I am.
Somewhere.
Press escape. Press escape on the keyboard.
Okay, here I am. I apologize to you guys.
Press escape on the keyboard. Top left corner of the screen.
Apologize to you guys.
Press escape. Minimize button, minimize it.
There, we don't have that up there again. I
All
told you.
right. That. Minimize.
That's not minimized.
Escape.
I don't know what.
Escape on the keyboard. Or the Facebook. Escape. Okay. Mute it.
Wait, what?
How does she mute Facebook? Click on the line. Muted. Okay. Muted. Obviously, you put on that. Muted. There it is.
Okay. I think we got it.
All right.
You good now?
I believe we're good.
Try to
All
get,
right. Wow. I'm telling you, let's try that again. Come on, David and Nicole, introduce yourselves, please.
Hello, David and Nicole Hopkins. We live up here in New Jersey, and we've been married for 28 years. And we have 2 children, both in college right now. And we're happy to be on this event.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Eric and Natalie, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey, how you doing? Natalie and Eric. Been married for 9 years. We have 2 kids. We have a daughter with 7, Aaliyah. We have a 4-year-old, Amari. And then she also has a 23-year-old as well.
Girl, you don't have no 23-year-old.
Yes,
Stop.
ma'am. She's part of my testimony.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Joseph and Barbara, introduce yourselves.
So my name is Joe. This is Barbara. We've been married for 33 years. We have 3 kids and 5 grandkids. I'm originally from Detroit. She's from Oakland, California, but right now we live in North Carolina.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. All right. Before I begin with my questions, I want to first thank each of these couples for being willing to participate in this candid conversation. I honor you for your transparency and for your truth tonight. Whew, let's see. We should flow good now. We should be good. I've had the privilege to have 3 really great conversations. A conversation with my sons, a conversation with my daughters, and a conversation with my white friends. These conversations were birthed in my heart as the world heard about and saw the video of the brutal death of George Floyd. After hearing about George Floyd, what was your conversation like with each other regarding it? Richard and Crystal, after hearing about George Floyd, what was your conversation like with each other?
Our conversation after we had seen that was, of course, I think like everybody else's, it was shocking. It was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then we've learned, especially being we have a media company, and we've been doing this for 4 years, and we know how the news cycles are. We said, okay, this is awful. Let's sit back and watch how this all plays out as far as what exactly went on. And I remember that was the first time that we didn't react in a knee-jerk way, that we thought, let's see how the story unfolds. Let's see how society reacts to it. Let's see what comes of this. And I remember having that.
Yes, yes. And I was it was like speechless. My heart just dropped, and I was just, words couldn't even express what happened to this man. And I was deeply bothered by this. Yes.
Were you guys together when you found out?
No. I had I told Richard that what I saw, and he was downstairs in the studio, and I just said, Richard, come here, look at this. And I just told him, and we saw the video, and I was just, even that night, going to sleep, I was just like, couldn't really even sleep.
Yeah, it was a very unsettling night. That's for sure. There was something in the atmosphere that night. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, David and Nicole, same question. After hearing about George Floyd, what was your conversation like with each other regarding it?
Well, I'll let Nicole do her part, but for my part, it was definitely, it really hit home, because that's actually, Nicole and I met in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so we know the area well. In fact, I proposed to her at Minnehaha Falls, which is about 2 miles from where the 3rd precinct was burned down.
Wow.
So knowing that area so well, knowing the people there, our hearts went out to everyone there of what was going on, and that, you know, you're just seeing something that was just so stomach turning and so saddening to see that happen, and that just rocked our world. And it was a hard time even for my wife to see the video. You could talk about your part.
I didn't watch the whole video. I couldn't. I can't. I just can't. And when Dave said, "Do you realize where that is?" My heart just sunk. And then I think more, our kids, they're in college. David and Marissa, it's been a rough time. And during that time, a lot of conversations and a lot of pain, and it just was hard.
And the funeral, where they had that funeral at, that actually is the college that we went to, North Central University.
Wow.
So it was just that, there's a lot of connection that was there that just really hit us quite hard.
Yeah, you had connection that a lot of us didn't have. All right, Eric and Natalie, after hearing about George Floyd, what was your conversation like with each other regarding it?
Well, I know for me, I didn't know what was going on really until Natalie told me about it, because I don't really watch the news like that. So, because I know on the news, everything is just bad. So for me, I don't really watch the news, but she really told me about it. And then I think for about 2 weeks, I didn't really watch the video, because for me, I'm like, where I grew up, that type of stuff always happening. So I'm just like, man, it just continued to keep happening. So I watched the video, and then it was just like, man, something got to be done, because it's like this stuff just continues to keep happening over and over again, and it's like, what's going on? So it definitely hurt me, and you know, I know it affected her a lot, just seeing that. So it's just one of those things where something got to like happen, you know.
Yeah. So my best friend had called me that afternoon, and she was just going off. She's in an interracial marriage as well, and a blended family. And she called me, and she was crying. She's like, "I'm just sick. I can't take it." And she's like, "Something has to change." And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, first this woman in the park with the Black man that was a photographer, that whole incident." And she said, and then with George Floyd and the police officer. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I got home and I watched it, and I mean, just talking about it, I get so upset. And I called Eric upstairs and I said, "Babe, you have to watch this." And he's, "I can't." He's, "I can't watch it." And I couldn't stop crying. it was so heavy burdened and so heavy hearted. You know, when he called out mama, and, you know, I'm a mother, and he was just holding me. And I just said, something has to change, because our son is going to grow up and be a man. And I fear for, you know, him. So it was just heartbreaking, to say the least, and absolutely disgusting. So clearly it, you know.
Yeah. Eric, where you from?
I'm from Dade City, Florida.
Okay. You from Dade City?
Dade City.
All right, Joseph and Barbara, same question. After hearing about George Floyd, what was your conversation like with each other?
I think I was the first one to hear about it. And ironically, I had been up the night before reading about Amy Cooper and watching those videos. And I had made a post that was, you know, kind of like an open letter to her, saying, you know, you don't really realize when you do that, what the impact is. You know, it's not a level playing field, basically. So went to sleep late, and then by the time I found out the next day, the Amy Cooper situation was still, you know, hanging on. I'm like the rest. I couldn't. It was hard for me to watch the video, so I watched a portion of it. But I couldn't watch it all, because I know what they'd said that he was saying, and I just couldn't bear to hear it. But there was a lot of like anger. I come from the inner city. I come from Oakland, California, and you know, that's what I grew up with. And it's just, now we have technology that, you know, tells, you know, we may have said something before, but now there's technology. And so it's kind of double-sided. When I see it, um, just really offended, but I wasn't really surprised.
Yeah. What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, it was troubling. It's really tough to watch that. Like Eric and Natalie were talking about, we have a grown son. And, when you see things like that, I think immediately you start thinking about your children.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it
Real.
so.
Yeah, I'm a mama too, so I'm just pausing for a minute, right? Just that right there. I know as an interracial couple, I know that when you're out in public together, you've experienced racism. I want to talk to you about how you handle that. And then those of you who have children, I want to know, how do you prepare your children for it? Richard and Crystal.
Well, I remember one time Richard and I went out to eat, maybe, I think it was our anniversary or Valentine's Day. I think it was Valentine's Day. We had went to went somewhere to eat. And I remember there was a white man and I think it was 2 white men and 3 white women that were standing around. It was like one of those restaurants where you could eat in. They had a bar on one side and the other side, the dining and all that stuff. So I went in with my fur coat and we went in. And so, usually when you come in, they just had, because it was cold that night. I remember that Valentine's Day was cold, maybe 2 years ago. And when we went into the area where they have you just to kind of wait, and if somebody wants to have something to nibble on or something like that, we were staying on that side. And so I remember it was, the 2 white men and the white women, they were older and they saw me sitting down. I think Richard had went to the bathroom, so they didn't see us together. Mm-hmm. And so he came out, and as soon as he slipped off my fur coat and he just put it on the back of my chair. And it was 2 of the older white women. They just looked and they could not stop looking. And it was like like a disgust look. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of just kept staring at me, and they were just looking at like my shoes and everything. And they were just trying to figure out, that's what it looks like on their faces. Like, why, is he with her? But it was like disgust. Richard, you can talk from there, because I remember you noticed it and you were kind of just standing there, and when they turned away, because it was like a very hard stare. It was like, normally when we go out, people just walk up to us and just compliment us from both both races. Y'all are a beautiful couple. I just see love just oozing out of your pores, and y'all just look beautiful, and it's great. But that particular night, it was just looks of disgust on that particular night. That was the first time since Richard and I was together that I had witnessed that. And what Richard did immediately, he was very calm. He saw it, and he asked me, first of all, "Are you okay?" That's what he said to me. Do you remember that, baby? Mm-hmm. Yes. And I said, "I am." And he said, "Well,
wait, let him tell me, Richard, what did you say?"
Well, I have a little caveat here. I was previously, before I met Crystal, I was in an 18-year marriage with an African-American woman as well. And we have a biracial son. Okay. Unfortunately, she had passed away quite a number of years ago. Okay. Previous to that, I was married to my high school sweetheart, and she was Mexican. She was actually from Mexico. So I would think that I have about 35 years of kind of smelling out, and you got to, try and take care of your woman, protecting her. Mm-hmm. And from the past jobs that I've had, I'm sort of am used to making sure sort of what is the threat. And I think all of us men do that to protect our women and make sure everything's right and stuff. So I was real used to it by then. And you know a distinct between this is a real threat or this is just somebody who has stink face. You know what I mean? So you gotta like you just gotta let them go. Yes. And not even worry about it, because there was nothing that was going to destroy that wonderful evening. So it really wasn't that bad. But I will say this, that when you say about the feeling the racism or whatever. I don't know if it's so much racism as it is segregation down in the South. My wife and I are from the Northeast, and everything, especially with the church, is a lot more segregated. So when I go visit predominantly Black churches, you know, I stick out, obviously. So you get that push and pull. And over the years, you just learn how to deal with it and learn how to deal with it appropriately. When I was a young man, you used to get a little angry, and, you know, but as I've gotten older and mellower, I hope, you know, you learn to appropriately deal with that and just make sure that number one priority is that your children and your wife and your loved ones are okay. What is the real threat?
And
Love it.
he asked me, was I comfortable? And he said, and I said, yeah, I'm okay. He said, you know what? He said, let's go somewhere else.
That is true, right?
So so we just left that night. Yes.
All right. David and Nicole, what about you guys? As an interracial couple, I know that when you're out in public together, at some point you've experienced some racism, some stank face, as my friend just said. How do you handle that? And if you have children, which I believe you do, how do you prepare your children for that?
I think me and Dave were best friends before we dated, and we faced it immediately in Minneapolis. Immediately when we were out on the streets. I never before this realized it, and it was difficult at first. He was more, honey, pull back, or, you know, when we were just friends, Nicole, you need to, let me just talk to you about what you're facing here. And we just kind of put it in this terms. When it happens, we kind of ignore it. And we literally say, oh, we're black and white today. That's literally our comment. Black and white right now. Yeah. And then we just keep it moving. I think it was harder with the kids when they started to really realize it. I think the hardest experience I had was when we walked into a church down south that was mainly white, and everyone turned. And the look on my daughter's face, and it broke my heart. I had to stop, and that was the first time I don't think we've ever walked out of any place, but that's the first time I felt like maybe we should, but we stopped, and I said, no, we're going to worship God and we're going to keep it moving. And we did. And that's when the talks really started with the kids. And because I saw the hurt in her eyes. Difficult. And they used the same thing. Oh, mommy, you're black and white today. You know,
Wow.
How we deal with it.
Yeah. And I think that and tying into just as we're talking about just the relationships of us before the kids, even having the kids, it was always a challenge because Marissa, our daughter, is darker skinned than Nicole is. So then when she was holding her, you know, it was interesting that, you know, some cultures are like saying, you know, why is that baby with her? And so it was that type of questioning things that would go on. And it's just funny how people just have those assumptions and they just think that when they see two people of two different colors, and being the mom and the daughter, they don't even put it together, you know? So yeah, so there was that part, but yes, the black and white thing, that was the thing that would always pop up for us every so often when we go into different restaurants and you get the looks that are there. And yes, and I guess I think the church part's the most disappointing when you have that happen. You're sitting there going, wow, you know, the place you'd expect that.
Man, you guys are all in my conversation for next week. Eric and Natalie, as an interracial couple, I know that when you're out in public together, you've experienced some racism. How do you handle it? And then how do you prepare your children for it?
Well, there's this one time I remember it was us and the kids. The kids were a lot younger then. And we just came back from my nephew. He played at Auburn University football. So we was traveling and we was just super hungry. And I was like, there's a Dairy Queen over there. You know, I was like, let's stop in at this Dairy Queen, get something to eat.
And we were in, where were we at?
I think it was like Alabama.
We were in
Mississippi,
Alabama, in a side town.
So we pulled over. I went in first. Did you go?
No, I ran in with the kid. I ran in with
first.
Aaliyah to use the restroom really quick, and he was coming in after us.
So as I walked in,
and it was on a Sunday after church, so everybody in that town was there after church in their church attire.
So when I walked in, it was just like everybody just started staring at me and my kid, and I was just like, "Whoa, where are we?" They just looked at us, And they was just kind of, you know what they was thinking, like, why are you here? Like, shouldn't you be somewhere else? Or why, you know, you're not invited here. So I was just walking, you know, lightly, like, man, I don't know what's going to go down up in here. But the crazy thing about it is that they had Black workers though, in the back. So I don't know if they were still used to that, you know, you work and you need to serve us type deal. But I mean, it was awkward, but we went in there, got our food. We sat down, and there was an older white lady that was sitting, you know, across from us, and she was
There's
just staring.
4 of them, yeah.
She was staring at us the whole time. And the good thing is that we had the kids, and, you know, she was smiling at the kids. And I think that's what brought all the tension down, because we had the little small kids with us. And, you know, I think after that, it's just, when you see small kids, you just like, I can't harm nobody like that. So, but I mean, we definitely had some other incidents, but I remember one time her mom had Aaliyah, because when Aaliyah was born, she was like super light. And then she ended up getting like a little, you know, texture to her. And then her mom had her in the grocery store, and, you know, people would like look at her and be like, why do you got this baby in your hand? Like, are you like babysitting? And she would like tell them, like, you know, this is my grandchild. So just little incidents like that. And you know, but we always get the stares. For me, I love it. I smile at it. I'll tell you, it's another incident. I'll let Natalie talk. But there's another incident. We were somewhere, and this guy was looking at us.
Oh, we were going to dinner. We were going to dinner.
You know,
he had a Confederate flag in his car. He was standing outside his truck.
And he was staring at us. And, you know, I'm just looking at him, laughing, kissing her, grabbing her, you know. He
puts his hand on my butt while we're walking in, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
And to me, it's funny, because I just know exactly what they're thinking. And I know I'm not in no harm and nothing like that, but it's just the fact that they still think like that. Sad. You know what I mean? So
for the kids, I think where we live in a diverse community. There's so many biracial couples, even in our neighborhood, at the schools that they're in. And then at our church, you don't know if it's a Black church, a white church, a Spanish church. Like, you just don't know. Like, you cannot attend our church and tell what type of church it is. Yeah. So that really helps. But I mean, with everything going on, Eric the other night was praying. He was praying over the police and over our nation and just everything going on. And we did a prayer march for our church. And when we got done praying, Aaliyah, our 7-year-old, she looked at me and she said, do white lives matter? Like, really concerned and confused. And so, because she's looking at me like, well, Mom, you matter because you're white, but Daddy matters because he's Black, and I'm white and Black. Like, it just became, in that moment, I mean, wow. It just crushed my heart. And Eric was like, I got this one, you know? So he just explained and walking alongside her and just, you know, educating her, but just preparing her. But they're precious. And I believe our children have really helped open the eyes of many that have been ignorant for years, to be honest, and racist for years. I feel like they have really helped chisel at some of the hardness in others' hearts, because they are so lovable and they're so fun, and they don't, you know, they're precious. And I think that the Lord is using them in that way that is really helpful, I think, for us as a family. So
before I move on to the next couple, Eric, I'm very interested in your conversation with her, with your daughter at that time.
I think for me, I just basically just sat her down and just told her that, you know, there's going to be some people, you know, here in this world that, you know, that might not like you. But the thing about it is that you need to understand that, you know, at the end of the day, you need to pray for them and you need to love them, because that's what God would want you to do. And, you know, and I would tell her, you know, there's no need for you to react to them or act crazy towards them. Just say, God bless you, and just keep it moving, because at the end of the day, most people are going to think the way they're going to think. As long as you have a good heart and know that everybody's equal, you can like whoever. As you get older, you can date whoever, you know, as long as they're good people. But I just told her, you know, everybody's equal. Doesn't matter your skin tone, and just treat everybody with respect, and you'll get the respect as well. So.
Well, and you did say, he said, you know, God made mommy and her skin, and God made daddy and his skin. and you're a blend of such goodness. Like, you know, you're a blend of the best, like that God created you in your skin, you know? And so just to love her DNA, just to love her makeup, you know, and just to encourage that, to be bold in that, to be beautiful in that, you know. And you know, we see that from time to time because my hair is actually really, really curly normally. And so when I straighten it or have it, you know, with a wand or whatever, she's like, oh, your hair, it's so soft and straight. And I said, girl, people pay thousands of dollars for your curly hair. So don't even try it. And so it's just really building up the character, but also praising the beauty of their skin tone and their hair and their, you know, I mean, you know, people always touch our hair and I'm like, oh my gosh. But, you know, I just think it's really helpful because yes, it is about character and it is about the heart and being drawn to that you know, the character and the core of a person, but also to embrace and to love the skin that you're in, you know, no matter the shade. So yeah, it was beautiful to see. It was obviously really attractive listening to him share that with her.
Yeah.
You know, and it's empowering.
Love it. Love it. All right. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was one more thing. I was also telling her that, you know, at the end of the, oh, sorry. Was my phone going off?
No.
Oh, sorry about that. Just to let her know that even though she is a mixture of me and Natalie, that at the end of the day, on paper, or if she's walking the streets or something like that, they're going to consider her as, you know, as a Black child, as a Black girl. So I just wanted her to understand that, you know, as she get older, just to be safe, as she, you know, gets go on her journey, and to just understand that she will be classified as a, you know, young Black child. So, and Black woman, and my son as well. He's gonna be, that's what he's gonna be classified, you know, even though they're mixed. So
yeah, they still got to check that box. Black, white, other. They still got those boxes. Joseph and Barbara, you guys tell me, because I know when you're out in public together, you've experienced some racism. Tell me how you handle it.
So, you know, for us, it might be a little different. We both met in the military. We were both soldiers. The military is insulated to some degree. You'll see more interracial couples, you know, because soldiers will travel around.
Much more common.
Yeah, it's much more common. So it not that it didn't happen. I mean, there were instances there. I'm much different now, 33 years, you know, into the marriage. When we first got married, I mean, I was a Irish kid that grew up in the streets of Detroit, right off of 8 Mile, and I boxed in Germany. So I was when we first got married, I was a little quick to engage when I would see something that I thought was a problem. I'm just as quick to engage today, but I do it much differently. I've learned how to handle the issues. I think the bigger issue, or the things that we've tried to instill in the kids, is we want them to be proud of who they are. It doesn't matter, you know, what their skin color is. We want them to be proud. I think the issue I probably saw the most was, so our son is not my biological son, it's her son from a previous relationship, and he's all Black, so he's not mixed. I would see issues with him and I were together because people would not naturally assume that he was my son. So if they saw me in the store and maybe I was punishing him because he was doing something wrong, you know, I would get these really odd looks of, well, why is this white man, you know, chastising this Black child, you know, and sometimes I would not catch it because to me, I took him as my son, and I didn't think that it was odd or that I was doing anything wrong. But then, you know, she would probably highlight, okay, well, you know, those people probably thought this because it was just an odd situation.
Yeah, for instance, you were helping to coach his baseball team. And he says to my son, he always says son when he talks to him. He said, son, blah, blah, blah. And the main coach got offended. The main coach was Black. He got offended and said, that's derogatory to call him son. And he's like, well, he's my son though. And he's like, well, he's a Black child and it's derogatory for any white person to call him son. And he was just looking kind of confused, like that doesn't even make any sense. And my son was looking just as confused. And I think that's the only thing we ever saw in the military. So it wasn't really until we came, you know, after we got out of the military at Fort Bragg and came up into the Raleigh area that we really experienced where people had problems, you know. Someone told my mom she was on the wrong side of the track. You know, she was living on the wrong side of the track, which literally, if you know Apex, there are two sides of the track and it's kind of divided that way, but we're not inside the box thinkers. So, so I think that I think the scariest moment for me in North Carolina was when we were still in the military and we had driven to California after the first Gulf War. We had taken a trip to see all of our family, and coming back through, we were just trying to make it back to Fort Bragg, but we were in the mountains and my youngest daughter had to use the bathroom and she was not with the whole use the bathroom out the side of the road thing. So we had to find a bathroom, and we had just come down through the mountains and we stopped at this little gas station, and it was dark and he was in the car, and I went in because it said you have to ask for the key. So I went inside and I said, can I have the key to the bathroom? And they kind of just looked at me like this. And there was two white guys in there. I hadn't even noticed originally the rebel flag that was outside. And they were kind of looking at each other like, and I don't know exactly what they were saying, but words to the effect on, is she serious? And we have been driving for 33 hours at that point from Winslow, Arizona to there. And he sees there's a problem. And he gets my son out of the car and he walks in. By then, I realize what's going on. I'm like, I'm ready to go. He walks in and he says, my wife needs the key to the bathroom. And like he said, he was a pistol back then. And I'm like, we are in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. And I'm like, you know, really at this point, I don't care if she goes to the bathroom in the car. He's like insisting, no, you're going to give my wife the key. It's kind of like the standoff. And he kind of approaches the counter, and then the guy just kind of throws the key out. And I'm just like, okay, I'll take the key. Because at first I'm like, let's just go. And he's like, no, you're going to use, you know, he's like kind of standing his ground. And I think at that point, that was where it started to be a little bit like, you know, I'm like in survival mode. I know what it means to be in the South and be Black. And I know in certain areas we're outnumbered with a lot of people who don't feel like we should be there. But for him, he's more like, this is my family. Nobody's going to treat him like that. And I think, you know, I think that was the fastest we ever went to the bathroom. Then we got back in the car and we're driving, and I'm still like so shaky, and he's like mad. And I think I was angry at him because I was like, don't ever do that again. I don't want to. Wherever people don't want us to be, I don't want to be there, especially with my kids. And he's like, but we can't raise the kids like that. And that was when our kids were like 2 and 9 or something like that. We can't raise the kids like that. And so we had this long, it was probably another few hours until we got to Bragg. And we were kind of in this argument all the way back because I had taken the stance of, you know what? They can put a sign up that says, we don't like Blacks here. I will just keep going by. And he was more of, sorry, if they're going to serve people, they're going to serve us as well as we are. So I think that was like the big wake up call for me. You know, I already knew it was, you know, people had their own opinion, but I'm kind of like, I don't really care what negative you have to say. And he's kind of the same way. It's like when the kids got involved. And I would say this second thing that was probably like upset him, it wasn't a fearful situation, but we were at a dealership out here and we were with a friend who was looking for a Corvette. It was a Chevy dealership. And so while he's looking, we're looking around at different cars. And my son, who was a teenager then, had walked around and he was looking at cars. Now we're all looking at the cars. We're looking in the windows and stuff, looking at the ticket price. And so is my son, but he's a few cars away from us. And one of the guys from the dealership goes up and he watches him for a while. Then he sneaks around the back of the car and then he comes up and we can hear him say,
But he's
Is there-
watching them. He's watching
Yeah, he's-
them, and you guys know it's that watch that someone's giving them where you know why he's watching them.
Yeah.
You know.
He had come up to us and asked, "Is there something I could help you with?" But then when he went over to my son, he was like, "Is there something that you need direction on, or something like that?" Or he said something about, "Are you lost?" And then my son who's not really a talker, he's just kind of like, "No," and he keeps looking, and the guy's like, with his arms crossed. And so at that point, when he gets quiet and stops talking, then I know he's like engaging in this. And so he goes over and he says, you said to the man, "What's your problem? Do you have a problem with him?" "Well, he's just walking around the lot, blah, blah, blah." And then he says, "That's my son. What's your problem?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, I didn't know it's your son." And he's kind of like, "What does it matter that it was my son? He's just looking on the lot." And so I think for me, I always took okay, this is not a place that I'll ever shop in, where he kind of took the call a person out on it.
Man, I just want you to know, Joe, I think you're getting a fan club in the comments. People just like, "Go, Joe," okay?
Much cooler
He's
now than what I
coming.
used to be
You
because
matured some. We figured out how to send that anger the right direction. I want to ask this quickly, this one. Crystal, when was your first exposure with people of other races? Everybody else thinks.
Mhm.
Your first exposure.
When I
Growing up a young little black girl, what was your first exposure of other races?
Okay, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, West Philly, and all the schools were African American. When I moved here to Henderson, North Carolina, and I went to a school and it had white kids there, and I was just blown away.
Like about what age, what grade?
Well, I was 14, about 14 years old.
Wow, your first exposure. That's something. Richard, how about you? First exposure?
Probably preschool, if not before.
Yeah, preschool. All right. David, what about you? First exposure?
Definitely was preschool. And I also had another quick thing I wanted to say that came to mind. Can I say that? One of the things that when we were talking about things that would happen and saw differences happen was I'm so thankful that we now have debit cards, because I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when you had checks and you actually wrote checks. There was a book that they would have for anybody who wrote bad checks at stores. And there were several times where Nicole and I were going to do something and I knew we were in a rush to go do something. And when it came time to pay, I would have her write the check because I knew they would not pull the book out. And it was just amazing to see the percentage of times that book would come out when I would write the check.
Wow.
So I am so happy to see that we now have debit cards, because that doesn't happen anymore. But that was like one of the earliest times I was thinking of that hit our relationship with when that happened. But yeah, preschool was definitely
Preschool.
I experienced being with other races.
Nicole, what about you?
High school.
High school. Wow. Your first time. All right, Eric, what about you?
Mine was middle school, because I know for me, elementary, it was pretty much Black and Mexican, but definitely middle school, I saw a lot more white people.
Natalie?
So I'm from a small town in Indiana called Leo, and it was predominantly white. There were 2 Black children in like kindergarten all the way through maybe 8th or 9th. They were adopted. My mom babysat them, and I remember not even noticing, to be honest, that I moved to Florida when I was 12, and we went to the same middle school. And I remember specifically calling I called back my girlfriends in Indiana after my first day of school, because I was sitting in a classroom and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're talking Spanish. Oh my gosh, like the school was so diverse. And I just was like, I have Mexicans sitting next to me. Like there's tons of Black people here. I'm like, this is so unbelievable. Like it's so fascinating. Like I just remember being like, wow. And they're like, oh my gosh, do they speak Spanish all the time? Like it was just, oh my word, And so it I was 12.
Wow. Barbara and Joseph. All right, what about you guys? First exposure of people of other races.
So I was born and raised in Detroit, and my neighborhood, my schools have all been predominantly Black, but there's been Hispanics, Blacks, Indians. So I mean, right from growing up, I've been around people.
Yeah. I was a military brat. My dad was in the Navy, so I was kind of born into that mixture. But the first that I can remember, my childhood babysitter was white. The family's childhood babysitter was like a second mom. Hi, Miss Blancett. We were at her house all day, and so and her family, her kids, and everything. So as far back as I can remember.
Wow. Okay, Crystal, how did you become comfortable with having a life with someone of another race and culture? How did you become comfortable with having a life with someone of another race and culture? What created that for you?
I would say when I was a little girl, I would watch Clint Eastwood on TV.
He was fine, wasn't he? You like Clint.
And, when he would just look with those eyes and he would just scrunch him up a little bit with the little, the crow's feet before he shoots his opponent. I was just, just amazed. And my heart just started thumping. And I was like, this man is cute. He's handsome. And I was like, wow, I was in a, predominantly Black school. So, well, it's all Black, teachers Black and everything coming from that. And, coming to North Carolina. And then, when I was in school, I started seeing white boys, and I had a teacher that was white. His name was, I'm not gonna say his name.
Don't say his name.
And I just found myself, I think I was in the 8th grade then, and my heart, I just started having butterflies in my stomach. I had a white teacher, he was a male teacher, I think it was science class, and I just couldn't even focus.
Oh, wow. I don't know if Richard's ever heard that story before.
Yes, the Clint Eastwood, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Richard, how about you? How'd you become comfortable with having a life with someone of another race and culture? What created that for you?
First of all, I don't have the sexy squint that Clint has. It was hard, or the hairline, so it's all good. Honestly, I'm just going to piggyback on the culture of her answer. It was Thelma from Good Times that made me comfortable.
Yes. You said that girl is fine. Look at her.
Still is.
Still is. Yes. I love it. Thank you for that was good. David and Nicole, come on. Tell me, how'd you become comfortable with having life with someone of another race and culture, David?
It's just something that it was a proclivity that was just there, and it's just been there forever, and that's just the way I went. And there'd be friends I would talk to, and then we talk about this type of situation of where others, their priority was being with a person of their same race, and then we just talk about what the differences were there, and it just always flowed that way for me. I don't know why, but it just did.
Cool. Nicole. Go ahead, Nicole.
Truthfully, it wasn't even a thought. He was my best friend. I think as the relationship grew, it's when I realized what was happening. And to even know how much I didn't think about it, 2 years into our marriage, literally just one day I looked at him and I said, I'm not going to have a white baby with blue eyes. And he said, is that a problem? I said, no, I just came to me, like it wasn't. So it's just, he's my heart.
So good.
And it really, I think as time has gone on, I've realized how much his experiences have made him to be who he is. And I love that. I love who he is. I love his joy. And the more I've been with his family, and they're my family, just as my family is. And so, and I'll protect them just like, it's just.
That's right. That's your family. I love that. Eric and Natalie?
Well, I've had, I dated other races before, Natalie, but I started off pretty rocky, just with families not, seeing eye to eye to our relationship.
Wait,
But
don't go there. That's gonna be my next
Oh.
question.
okay, sorry, my bad. I know, she, like I said, she's my best friend. I love her to death. We got each other back. She definitely has my back, going through from earlier when I had different jobs and things like that. So she held me down. And when we, started talking, I knew from right then and there when we went to Carrabba's, shout out to Carrabba's. Right then and there when we had conversations, I knew right then and there I was done with everybody else and it was just me and her. So I didn't care what anybody else had to say.
What you want to say, Natalie?
So can you ask the question one more time?
I sure can. How did you become comfortable with having a life with someone of another race and culture?
So I've played basketball since I was 5. And so I'm a diehard baller. And I just became so intrigued just in the culture of the game. My teammates, predominantly were Black, Hispanic, and then just such a diverse world that I became entrenched in. And I realized that, so I have a 23-year-old daughter. I got pregnant at 14. I had her at 15. I am an extremely resilient person. And so I realized that I was so drawn to the resiliency that this skin carries, the resiliency in minorities. And I felt so connected and attached to Eric and just his drive, his perseverance, the character that has been developed over, through that, the things that he's overcome. I am just so drawn to that. And I feel like just through that resiliency, I don't care what anybody thinks. You don't like it, don't look, basically is my thing. We're resilient. We are ride or die. I will die for him. I would die for his skin color. I am just 100% will always have his back. But I would say that resiliency has just anchored me into this beautiful bond that we have.
And my basketball skills.
What you say? I missed it.
Basketball skills.
Basketball skills. That's what it was. That's what won you over. Joseph and Barbara, how did you become comfortable with having a life with someone of another race and culture?
So before Barbara, I dated a number of different women.
Only dated Black women.
He didn't know he did.
Yeah. I never really had too much of a problem with it. And it's interesting. So I come from a big Irish Catholic family in Detroit. And it's funny because for me, her family, and she comes from a very large family. It's funny, our families are actually very identical. The things that we do, how we interact with each other. So it's actually, when I spend time with her family, it's almost like spending time with my family. So yeah, are there some differences? Yeah, but culturally, it was almost very identical, my family and her family. So there really wasn't a big difference. So.
Okay, Barbara.
For me, it was a little, ironically, it was a little unusual at first. So the thought of it was new to me. Ironic because my dad and mom divorced, and when my dad remarried, he married a white woman, and my brother that's just older than me, he married a white woman. So it wasn't like it was new to my family. It was new because it's like, I'm a Black woman marrying a white man, and you didn't see a lot of that at the time. So it took some getting used to, but over the years, what I've noticed, so like we're 33 going on 34 years, what I've noticed is sometimes I forget that he's different than me.
I love it.
It's only when he gives me that stare, like, what are you talking about? And I don't remember what it was. It was a couple
because
of
she'll
weeks
say
ago.
something and she'll say, well, you know how us Black people are.
No, I said something about, don't you get tired when white people want to touch your hair for the texture? And, and I was doing something and I kind of looked over at him and he's just looking at me like, and you just kind of forget that you're different. So when so I think at this point, it's like so far gone. And I think what drew me to him is that he is so unapologetic about it. And I think that's what made the relationship work, where I was kind of like, you know, avoid discussions with people. He was more like, and he was so, I think he knew more about Black culture and history than I did. He's a big history buff. So there's a lot of times where he was educating me on things. So when we get into this, someone would get into a debate with us, they couldn't match him, because I don't care who you were, Black or white, Hispanic, he knew his history and he could correct you.
So good. So good. All right, let me start this way. David and Nicole, without identifying individual people, how did your family and friends handle your relationship? Did you have the guess who's coming to dinner experience? And what were their concerns? David and Nicole.
Wow. Yes. So I know my wife is thinking exactly the same thing. I'm thinking of the biggest experience that we had. And it was with a family member, and it was a situation where it was a rough situation in one case, because I didn't even know the conversation was happening. So it was when I looked and I'm like, where is Nicole? And didn't know where she was, and was in another room being talked to about her being there and any type of intentions that were going to happen of engagement and marriage and all of that, and got a full history lesson. And so it was that basically after that I had talked with her, and then she had shared with me what happened. And so I was definitely at a moment of feeling like probably Joe would feel in that type of a situation, and just was trying to control my frustrations and feelings about something like that happening. So that was like, I think, the biggest moment, because everyone else, okay, I take it back. My mom, love her, and so it took her a while to
identify the person.
I have to. She knows it, and she loves me. And I'm her baby. All right. I'm the youngest of my three older sisters. I'm the baby. All right. So that's a big thing. And she called me the big baby. And so, so that was just a big, it was a thing of her really trying to, lose her. This is the last one, out of the family that's going to get married. And so it was a big time. That was a big transition for her, just dealing with that part of it, because so I think that's really what added to it, was that, I'm the last one. So then I choose someone of another race. So that, I think that just added to that challenge of it. I'm sorry I mentioned the name, but.
So I would say those things. I'd also say I was approached and said, do I want to make my life harder? And I was kind of shocked by that. And I think the other thing, there was a funeral and I was told he wasn't allowed to come. Wow. And they learned very quickly. I said, then I will not go. And it was turned around. Wow. That one hurt the most, where I was like, he's my husband. This isn't even a question.
This isn't even a question. Man, I'm loving you guys. Joseph and Barbara, without identifying individuals, how did your family and friends handle your relationship? Did you have the guess who's coming to dinner experience? And what were their concerns? I could tell this is going to be a good one. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna, you said don't say names, but I will say, when we were still in the military over in Europe when we got married. So we got married in Denmark. We didn't have any family that was over there. And then we told the family. We may have told them before we were getting married. And then, so we move into our apartment and he gets a letter.
This was before, there's no email back then.
Yeah, there's no email.
Everything is written.
So he got it, and it's very funny because this has never been said outside of him and I. That I know this. He got a letter that said, I don't know why you have to do this. I will never see I will never understand what you see in a Black woman. And his response, now mind you, I wasn't the first Black woman. He was raised in Detroit around all Black people. So, you know, there's not many options there. But you know, he said, okay, well, then that's it. And he puts the letter back in the envelope, and he starts to write. And I was like, what are you gonna do? And he said, I'm gonna write back then, you know, basically say la vie then. And I said, because it was very different for me, and he had kind of been estranged from certain parts of his family at that point. And I said, I couldn't imagine me being away from my mom, my sisters, my brothers, and everything, or like not attached to them. And, you know, I told him, you know, blood is always thicker than water. So you have to, it's fine. It's fine if, you know, we go back and you go visit those people. And because you have to be part of your family. Now, to make it clear, that was like one person sending that letter. That is not the way that his family thinks. And eventually when we came back here, you know, we met and everything. I never mentioned that I saw that letter, but he had stood his ground, and on his side, the family like has welcomed me. I call them, especially the cousins and everything, you know, we each other on Facebook. It's, hey cousin, you know. So I felt, so going there, the experience, I didn't experience what you would think when you see that letter. I've been welcomed, and even with the older family members, the older aunts and uncles, they were very welcoming. And I think coming to my family, you can say how you felt meeting my family.
Well, I think her family is very family oriented, and they're very religious. Her mom was extremely religious. So I think that they, and not that my family wasn't, it was a little different, but her family was very inviting and very opening. Now, I have to say, I'm a little bit of an extrovert, and like I love to play spades, and I'm very—
you in, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the family, you know, I was there, but I mean, her family has always been very, very opening, and I get along great with her brothers and sisters.
Well, I will have to say, I won't say that
Okay,
one.
all right.
I won't say that one. When we get to meet privately, we'll tell you this other little part, but I will say that he is very much an extrovert, which actually helped because when we were there, I think we got to the house, and 20 minutes later, we were all going to the store, and my two sisters were with me, and he kind of made a joke that was kind of
Let's just say an off-color joke.
An off-color joke, which I won't say on here either. And my sisters turned around and looked at him and looked at me and said, "That's your husband." And then they looked at him and said, "It's on." And so ever since then, they're like this.
Yeah.
And I sometimes think that they feel closer to him than they are.
Eric and Natalie. All right, without identifying individual people, how did your family and friends handle your relationship? Did you have the guests who's coming to dinner experience? And what were their concerns?
So I've had it said to me by some family members. So things are totally different now, right? So early on, everything is amazing. I cannot, it's just so blended. But early on, I have had this statement made to me. I come from a very strong Christian background. I had it said to me by a family member, I would rather you have told me you were a lesbian than to be dating a Black man or Black guy. I also, you know, have heard it from older generations in the white side of my family where, you know, his kind doesn't want you in their family. His kind doesn't want you in their family. And then I've also heard, you know, just statements like, he's with you because of, you know, what he can gain. And then I had a family member say to me, which we got into it heavily, but she just said something to the regard of, you already have a child with a Puerto Rican man. So my oldest is Puerto Rican and white. You have a child with a Spanish person. What are people going to think when you date a Black guy? On top of that.
On top of that.
What are you have no idea what you're getting into. I'm a sassy little thing. I'm extrovert to boot. You tell me no, I'll show you. You say I can't, I'll show you I can. So I just had conversations where I'm like, if you cut a Black man, woman, anyone of color, what color do they bleed? And I used our spiritual background. I said, we both bleed red. And I said, is there a separate heaven for Blacks and whites? If I have biracial children with a Black man, that will they not be welcome to your home? Because I'll tell you what, you won't be welcome to mine. If that's the boundary you want to draw, trust and believe, I will draw that boundary too. My friends, they love this man. One of my girlfriends said, what if you don't, he asked me out and I didn't respond for a while. Cause like I said, I've known him since I was 12. So there's, and so my girlfriend said, what if you don't say yes? What if your Boaz is right in front of your face and you say no, cause you're worried about what everybody else thinks. And I always held that. She was in our wedding, clearly, but I always held that near and dear to my heart. And some of my Black girlfriends, they had said, "Why you got to take a good one? He's educated, he's got a job, he's never been arrested, he doesn't have any children. Why you got to take a good? Why do you got to have to take one of our good ones?
One of our good ones.
So there's, it's." But then on the other, in my next breath, I've had family members, even before we've all been like this, they're like, oh, we already knew. Or, like, that's Natalie doesn't fit in a box. You don't keep her in a box. Like, she's always been different, stuff like that. So there's microaggressions and macroaggressions that I feel like I've dealt with and we've dealt with. But today it's absolutely beautiful.
What about Eric? What about with your family?
Oh man. So
don't identify.
I would like to get some names, but
no,
I won't do names. But for me growing up, that's pretty much what my family taught us and said was date somebody in your race. Don't go outside your race. And that's pretty much all I knew until, like I said, when I went to middle school. And then I started seeing all these different other races, and I was like, it's beautiful out here. Mm-hmm. And so when we were talking pretty much underground, and
we kept it secret for like four months for my family and like 9 months for his family.
Wow.
Like we were grown in our 20s.
So we kept it underground for a while, and then some people started saying that this was when MySpace was in. I don't know if anybody remember MySpace. MySpace was in, so I had her on my page, love music and everything, with a picture and everything. So some of my family members started seeing her on there, and it was like, you making some sort of comments towards it. It was like, are you guys dating? And then I finally told them, and they was cool with it. But some other family members, they definitely didn't like it. They just hated the idea.
If I see her car like in our street, I'm gonna have it towed.
It was just some bad stuff, and they just hated it. But on the other end, one of my other family members, they loved it. They opened her with open arms, and they, I ain't gonna put no names.
That's positive.
Well, okay, I can put a name. My grandma, she was real positive about it.
Okay, that's a positive. Okay.
Yeah. My grandma Lucille.
My grandma was positive about it. I told her over the phone, and she was like, baby, I love it. She was like, I love Natalie. Well, she called her Matley.
She calls me Matley. Well, she did. God rest her.
She goes, baby, I love Matley. And then, so she used to come over and see her all the time when I was in Miami, and it was great though, on that end. But other than that, everybody's good now. They love her. Same thing with her family. Like, they love me. They open me with open arms, and it's this beautiful thing now, and I wouldn't have it no other way.
That's so good. All right, David and Nicole, When did you recognize white privilege, and does that affect your relationship?
We recognized it pretty early, even as friends, even with the checks. Oh yeah, it definitely affects our relationship. We have 2 kids and they both have medical issues. My son has 17 specialists at Children's Hospital, did. He's now in college. And I think one of the hardest things to do is deal with kids with special needs. And then the doctors are listening to me and not to my husband. And I needed him there. And they pushed him out a lot of times.
Wow.
And so it became a thing of, do I protect my husband or do I get what I need for my child? And even when I would get frustrated that I was holding so much, I had to remember the place that he was put in because of our society. So white privilege is just, I've seen it when we were pulled over one time and the cop literally was going to pull my husband out for nothing he did wrong, saw me and he backed away. I become the person running to the scene so something doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, and I definitely would say that, tying into Nicole was saying about the doctor's part of it, that has been an experience that we've had throughout the time with David. Is there's lots of times where we're sitting in the room and the doctor's talking to us about what they need to do with David, and they'll concentrate just on Nicole. And they're not talking to both of us about the situation. And so there's times where I'm like, almost like trying to do laser beam eyes to the person, say, yo, I'm here, I'm in the room. And so that's the part where it's just, looking for that standard respect that you would expect, because, both of us are paying this doctor to take care of our child. So that money's no different color. So then I should get the same respect. And so that's one of the things that sort of was very frustrating when we'd go to several doctor visits.
Wow. All right, Joseph and Barbara, when did you recognize white privilege, and does that affect your relationship?
Well, I think he probably recognized it like much earlier than me. For me, at one point in my life, after my parents split, I had a child young also at 16. So low income, struggling to make it. So always being in that place where people were judging me because of, because I was poor, and focused on like breaking that trend. So going to the military, come out, go back, complete my degree, and get a good job. And I think that was when we moved up into the Raleigh area in '97. We had come up to look at homes, and we went into this. So I thought, okay, I'm doing good. I'm like self-sufficient. I have a good salary. I have a salary, not an hourly job. So I thought I'm doing well. And I had, achieved all of this even starting as 16, a 16-year-old mom. And then we walk into this place that has these houses, this model. And I walked in and the lady's sitting at the desk and she doesn't get up. And she kind of looks, she's like, is there something I could help you with? But more like, why are you here? And then I said, well, I wanted to see some of your pamphlets for your home and your homes. And she stood up and she said, just as he was walking in, she says, our homes start in the 180s. This was back in '87. And I was like, and just her tone and everything. And then she said, what does your husband do? And then, so that's about the time he came in, but she didn't attach him to me. And then she said, hold on a second. Hi, sir, how can I help you? And that's when he kind of like flipped out. First of all, you cannot be disrespectful to my wife and blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, oh, I didn't know she was with you. And now she like is ready to help, but she doesn't realize that, she didn't, that it was wrong for her not to assume, because at that time I was making more than him. And but she made this assumption, that it was, okay, now I can sell her a house because he walked in. And I was like really hurt because I was like, wow, I've achieved all of this. I'm not poor. I've never been a burden to society, yet I can't get a break. So it's not really just about, that I was poor. And that had followed me because I get followed around in stores all the time. He's called out security people because I mean, I'm not stealing anything and I'm well paid, but there's just that part can't shake. Doesn't, you know, I can't shake that part. If I'm standing waiting for food or waiting to get into a restaurant, people walk up to me. The guy walks up, passes the lady who's in a white shirt, black pants, and an apron, and walks up to me and asks me, "How long is your wait?" And I was just wearing regular clothes. So I'm always kind of put into this bucket. And then that's when I realized, okay, they don't even know about my kids or anything like that, or that I was a single mom. There's a different reason, but it's not happening to him. We also, we're going to visit a friend, some family friends in Virginia at a military base up at Fort Lee. And we're driving and my sister is with me and she's in the back seat. I had just had surgery, so I had medication with me, a bunch of medication in this bag. And all of a sudden we see the blue lights behind us. He had made a U-turn and I'm like, holy crap, I have all these. So I'm in this panic because I'm like, I have all this medicine. They're probably gonna drag me out of the car because they don't believe that this is like my medicine. All of this is going through my head. My sister is like, Barbara, just sit still and be calm. She's like putting her hands down. You know, we're doing the, okay, let's just stop. Meanwhile, he's pissed off because he's been pulled over and the guy comes up to the side of the car and he says to him, "Sir, do you know why I stopped you?" And he says, "You didn't stop me, I stopped," or something like that. And I'm like, no, babe, don't, you know, do that. And the guy's like, "Oh, well." And so he's kind of going at this guy. And I realized the guy is kind of like trying to like apologize. And I'm sitting there, I've still got my hands in plain view. My sister is still sitting there like that. And I'm kind of pissed, but also afraid to show my disgruntledness because it doesn't always end positively for us. But I think that's when it like really hit home because it's kind of silent when we move. This is the deal. Not only did the guy let him off without a ticket, the guy offered to drive to our friend's house once we gave him the address, escort us to his house, and he escorted us to the guy's house. And I was like, never, this would never happen for me.
I think for me sometimes, you know, because, you know, I would assume maybe Richard, I mean, I'm the white guy here. And I think sometimes that is oblivious to me because it is what it is. I'm the white guy and I don't get that. And if I get that, I have the luxury to be obnoxious to a police officer without me having a fear of something else happening. So sometimes I overlook it and I don't think about it and I don't consider it, or, you know, I don't think of it as a white privilege thing. I'm kind of naive to it. And then she'll say the issue with the police officer. And I wasn't that obnoxious, but
he was short with him.
Yeah, I was short with him.
He wasn't obnoxious.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything wrong. But the difference is that a Black person I would never be short with the police officer. I'm like, yes, sir. You know, just because I want to go home and I don't know, you know, I think sometimes some police officers want to assert their dominance. So I'm like, you know, I'm not going to get into that battle. And, you know.
But I don't have that.
You don't have that. Yeah, because you have privilege.
Yeah.
I mean,
Eric and Natalie.
It is. I mean, that's the issue. So
that's the issue. Eric and Natalie, when did you recognize white privilege and how does this affect your relationship?
So I recognize that I have white privilege unless I'm with my Black husband or with our biracial children. I'm well aware of that, of just how people approach me or help me, assist me, questions, whatnot. It is a night and day difference if I am by myself versus when I'm with my equal and with our children. And I think for me, I recognize that, you know, sometimes obviously when we go out or how I'm approached or how questions are asked of me versus asked of him. And I am well aware, for a long time, he thought I was a nag in the car and with his driving, phenomenal driver. However, I would like put my hand on his leg or, hey, can you slow down? Or I watch I mean, to this day, I constantly watch the speed. And he said, can you stop? Like, you don't trust me. Why don't you trust my driving? I said, no, I trust your driving. I don't trust that we are going to get a good cop. I don't know. There's no guarantee. And so I've said many times to him before he leaves, I'm like, when I'm not with you, especially, can you please, I'm like, make sure you have your license. Please drive the speed limit. Please make it home. You know, and we've had these conversations, and, you know, when he speeds and I am in the car, because he does speed, you know, I sit there and I get really anxious. You know, I'm like, I literally am praying, you know, because I'm just like, babe, you know, my whiteness can only get us so far. If they're going to pull up and they're going to see you sleeved up with tattoos, they're going to see you with dreads. And I want to hold up a resume and say, here's his resume. Never arrested, doesn't do drugs, is a man of God, loves his children, faithful. You know, I just educate.
So they can say it doesn't matter. He's black.
It's so frustrating. So I do recognize that. I will throw up if I hear somebody say I'm colorblind or color blessed. No, I ask God daily to remove my own prejudices. I have them. I am of flesh. And I have the spirit in me, and there are moments and I'm just like, oh God, that wasn't me. Like, take that from me. So, you know, I'm well aware of that. But yeah.
So good. So good.
I just know for me, when I used to work in Orlando, I was getting off work one day and I used to have a Charger on rims, on 22s. So I was riding through the neighborhood, you know, just getting off work. It was late. And I looked in my rearview mirror and I saw a cop, you know, following me. So I'm making, you know, right turns, left turns, and he's still following me. So finally we got on the main road, and then he put his lights on, pulled me over, and then rolled out my window. And I was like, you know, why are you pulling me over? I wasn't speeding, you know. And he basically told me my car fit a description, and that they was looking for a guy who robbed someplace or whatever.
Wait, I love everybody's expression on their face when you said my car fitted description. Everybody got, yeah, we know that. Go ahead.
And I'm like, what? I was like, I just got off work. I was like, you see the shirt I got on? It says, you know, where I worked at, right down the road. And then he tried to make up another excuse, was like,
your light on your...
Yeah, your light on the back of your tag is out. Let me get your license and registration, you know, go to the back and look up my record. Obviously, there's no record on there because I've never been to jail. And then he comes back and then he's like, you know, get the light fix on the tag. And I'm like, so we wasted 20 minutes of my time for you to tell me that. You know what I mean? So that was one incident. And then another one from getting a job, an interview. I'm a PE teacher. So there's a particular job
at a Christian
school I was trying to get. And they called me and, you know, we talked and it was like, you know, come this particular day, we'll interview you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm excited, get there, and then talk to the principal, ended up getting the job that day. And then I found out probably
a couple months later.
No, it's probably like a year later.
Okay.
Year later, the lady at the front desk, she told me, she go, listen, she's like, they thought you were a white person because of your name and all that. They was like, they didn't know you was black. They was like, so they basically, you know, gave you the job on the spot because, you know, somebody else didn't show up for the job. And obviously they needed somebody for that position. So they just gave it to you, but they thought you were white. So, you know, stuff like that.
And that's an example of white privilege, you know, so.
Yeah.
Another great example. I'm watching the time, so I'm going to swing down to this question here. We understand that everywhere you look right now, you see and hear about racial injustice, systemic racism, white privilege, police brutality, and the list goes on. If you had the opportunity to speak to America in light of everything that's going on right now regarding race, what would your message be? And is your message different for white Americans as for Black Americans? David, what would you want to say to America? And first, let me know, do you have two different messages or is there one?
One message.
One message. Go ahead. Here's your chance. What do you want to say to America?
If everyone would replace pride with love, we'd be in a whole different situation. And that's what all this has really come down to in all the things that we've seen, the experiences that are happening around this world. And it comes down to people's hearts and comes down to the care that they have for one another. In every single situation that we deal with, if you were to pause for 2 seconds and say, what should I be doing? And what's a better way for me to do what I'm doing? And how can I use love in that situation? Our world would change. We wouldn't be having I'm probably having this conversation because we'd have a lot of people that are still living right now that have died unnecessarily.
Nicole, would you have 1 or 2 messages?
I probably would have 2 messages.
Okay, release your message to, what would you say to Black Americans or people of color? What would you say?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your experience and that you have to fight so hard. It shouldn't be this way. And you're treasured and you're loved. And I'm sorry. For others who don't understand, wake up. God did not make you any different. You need to learn to love. It's a heart issue. You need to really look at yourself and look at what's happening and wake up and change. Because if everyone just tries to change and make a difference, lives would be getting better.
Joseph and Barbara, we understand that everywhere you look right now, you see and hear about racial injustice, systemic racism, white privilege, police brutality, and the list goes on. If you had the opportunity to speak to America in light of everything that's going on right now regarding race, what would your message be? Barbara, I'll take you first. And do you have 1 message or 2?
I have just 1 message.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that at this point, everybody needs to stop and look within. And 1, nobody's going anywhere. So that concept of if you don't like it here, you can leave. We need that. But next, everybody needs to be fair. They need to be consistent across the board when they're judging, whether judging about someone being killed, or if they come across a police officer who hasn't done anything to them, treating them with respect. But at the same time, we can't stop being vigilant, even if it looks like we're getting there. I think we still have a long way to go, so stay focused.
Stay focused. Joe, do you have 1 message or 2?
I think I'd have 1 message. For us, for Barbara and I, we both come from military families. I retired from the Army. I really believe in our country. And what I would say is it is really the diversity within our country that has really made our country the country that I think it is. We have a lot of problems. There's a lot of crap in our backyard. We still have a lot of issues that we have to overcome. But the one thing that has made us the country that we are is because of the diversity that we have. And I think that is only going to continue moving forward. All of us have kids, and we all biracial kids. That's what America is going to be 25 years, 50 years from now. And I'm not faulting someone that wants to marry within their race. That's fine. I'm not judging that. But America 25 years, 50 years from now is not going to be like what it is now. It's not going to be like what it was, for us when we were born. Our children and our children's children, like our grandkids, 2 of our grandkids, they are white, Black, and Japanese. It's going to continue that way. And I just wish people would kind of get on board with that and understand that that's really where we're going. And it's the diversity within our country that is really going to continue to make us strong. And if we continue to try to divide, that's what's going to kill us.
Thank you. Eric and Natalie, We understand that everywhere you look right now, you see and hear about racial injustice, systemic racism, white privilege, police brutality, and the list goes on. If you have the opportunity to speak to America in light of everything that's going on right now regarding race, what would your message be? And is your message different for white Americans as for Black Americans? Natalie?
So something I try to live by, I would tell everyone, listen to hear and stop listening to speak.
Wow.
They listen to hear what is being said and to try and see the heart of the hurt, the heart of the anger, the heart of the confusion, the heart of the insecurities of, well, I'm white, how do I approach this conversation? You approach it. Hey, I don't know, teach me. I know this, I know us. I've reached out to Black friends and I'm like, I just want you to teach me what I can do, educate me. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth sometimes, and I might not say it the right way, but know my heart so that I can be a part of change. So I can be an advocate and be a healthy voice. And I want all my white brothers and sisters to move in that same direction and to not hide behind fear. Or, oh, I'm darned if I do. If I say something, it's not right. And if I don't say something, it's not right. That's coward. That's coward language. And so, so my message would be listen to hear and don't listen to speak. And then another thought, and people get like a little rattled when I say it. I say, you know, we're more alike than we are different. However, learn and celebrate how we are alike, but also recognize the major differences that are there and respect it. Respect it, try to get educated about the differences, be encouraged by the differences, be eager to learn, never stop having a mindset to learn. And so those are the two messages I would stand extremely firm on. And I would love to see all races come together in that regard, because I agree with you guys. Nobody's going anywhere. So let's figure this out. You know, my parents used to say, you guys need to talk this out, figure it out, hug, and let's move forward. Let's figure it out and get on the same page, get on the same team. So I get really passionate about it. That's my message.
Vote for Natalie. No.
Don't get me started.
Eric, would you have two messages or one?
Just one.
Okay.
So I think for me, I was just like for, you know, America just to just calm down and just have care and compassion for each and every individual. Because I think right now, everyone is just reacting off anger, and you see it on the news. They just tearing up everything. And the thing about it is that everyone is against each other, and we need to, like Natalie was saying, we need to educate one another about one's culture and to get on the same page. And I just know for me, something does have to change, because I've grown up, I've seen this happen before, and I don't want my kids to see none of this stuff as they get older. So I would like to see some change, you know, with the president saying something about it and making a change about it. But we definitely got to see some change. And I just hope that everybody gets on the same accord and just willing to change as well, you know, along with the cops and the government and all that. So, I mean, you know,
takes everybody having a
I just
voice.
want to see, you know, a change sooner or later. It got to be a change.
I didn't get a chance. I'm watching time, but I do want to at least drop it to you and have you think about it. What are you doing about the situation? How are you using your voice? What are you getting involved with? Because we all have to do something, right? Conversations are great, but then when we finish talking, somebody's got to get moving, right? Faith without works is dead.
Yep.
I had this question that I really wanted to ask, but I thought that might not be a good question to ask. So I'm gonna ask it, but nobody answer, okay? Nobody answer. During heated conversations, do racial slurs come out? Nobody answer. Nobody answer. No, nobody answer. Oh man.
Ever.
All right, I would like to close tonight by reading an excerpt of a poem entitled Interracial Love by Naomi Johnson. I found love not within my race, but in another ethnic place. Who put a shine of love upon my face? The love we share does not define the color of our skin. It's an emotional love that was created from within. Our hearts have been filled with lasting emotion from the Creator above. This allows us to see unconditional love. My name is Donna Porter, and I approve this message. Thank you again for joining me. Please join me next week for a conversation on racism and the church. Good night, everyone. Thank my couples for a phenomenal job. I know that people have learned something. You guys did a great job. Good night, everybody. Join me next Monday for racism and the church.